Hi, sorry for the interruption, but my husband and son are home, so there's going to be a lot of videos that have interruptions. So, as I was saying, my son would sleep with me in bed. He was very small, so we had these little, basically in bed bassinet, and he'd sleep with me, and I'd stay up a lot to watch him and make sure he didn't throw up, and he needed feeds in the middle of the night, and I was still pumping and all these things. So I started watching a lot of comedy on my phone at night, and I'd try and be quiet enough to not wake my son. And those are the things that worked for me to kind of try and make light in my life. And I wanted to give my creator shout out a little earlier in this video because there was a YouTube channel and a podcast that I found that made me laugh out loud. I try and not because my son was sleeping, but made my life seem funny in a lot of ways. And that was Shits and Gigs, or Shicks and Gigs. James and Fuhad, who made this podcast, are these two guys who are just hilarious. They have this like British wit sense of humor, but they're also just like young guys who can laugh at ridiculous stuff. So if you need a good laugh, I highly recommend you check out either their podcast or their YouTube channel. They're tons of fun, and they really will make you laugh out loud at ridiculous stuff, but also at like stuff that is every day and people are tweeting about it, and it's just like, really, like, this is so ridiculous. Like, is this really what the world is about right now? But it made me feel better. So I wanted to put that out there and say that you guys should check them out, whoever watches this video, and it's good stuff. So moving on with stress and trauma, I wanted to say that you can have post-traumatic stress from things you wouldn't even imagine. Car accident, a scary encounter, seeing something. All these things can crop up in different ways at different times, and you wouldn't even expect to have stress from that, but you do. And with me, my son is almost 3. He's been out of the hospital now for 2.5 years, and I still, when we're going to a doctor's appointment, it's stressful. When I know we have an upcoming doctor's appointment, I get more anxiety. In a couple weeks, he has every 6 months he has an echo and an EKG to see how the pressures in his heart are moving. He has one in a couple weeks. We haven't had one since January, and it's really scary because I know that eventually one of these appointments, the doctors are going to say, okay, it's time for surgery again. And then we're going to have to prepare for that. When my son was in the hospital as an infant, it was terrifying and scary, but it wasn't as hard for him as it will be this time, because he was an infant and he didn't like to move around and he didn't really care what was going on. He just chilling there, and that was what his life was. But now he's 3 years old, and all he wants to do is run and jump and play and scream and shout and do all these things that he's not going to be able to do after surgery. And it's going to be really hard for him, and it's going to be really hard for me and my husband to keep him in bed, to keep him still, to make sure that he is not aggravating his wound that he will have, to make sure that he is taking care of himself and we are taking care of him. With a 3-year-old, those things are much more difficult and much scarier. So I'm very nervous about how he's going to react this time around to surgery. And it could happen in 2 months. It could happen in a year. A lot of stuff is up in the air for us because it depends on how he's growing, how he's functioning, how his insides are working. And those things you can't tell unless you have an echo. And let me tell you, just having to keep him still for an echo is hard at 3 years old. You know, I bring my phone in and I put it over his face and kind of let him watch videos and keep him calm and sing and try and just play games with him while he's laying still, because he can't move. Otherwise, the things don't work and they have to start all over. And it's really challenging. So if anyone has any trips or tips, you know, for keeping their kids still, by all means, send them my way in the comments. But it's not easy, and we're figuring this out day by day. And you know, I've been figuring out day by day since he was born, just like every parent, especially first-time parent, does. You know, every child is different, every baby is different, everything is different. But sometimes I feel like the things I have to figure out are not the same things that other people have to figure out. Not harder, not easier, just different. So I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I love my son and I feel grateful that he is who he is. And, you know, there are a lot of people who have it harder than we do. You know, my son can walk and talk and move, and those are things that I will never take for granted, because it could have been totally different. You know, if we hadn't had a nurse at the hospital where he was born say, that doesn't look right, who knows? He would have gone home and probably not made it. And we wouldn't have known what we did wrong. And that would have been traumatizing, to say the least. But now I feel like we are figuring it out every day. Every day is new. Every day is an adventure. And, you know, I feel grateful and also, you know, scared, and also like, well, you know, we're going to soldier through, because that's what you do for your child, and that's what people do for those that they love. And, you know, that has been something I've learned since having a child. I love my husband. Obviously, I married him, and I didn't take that lightly, being a child of a pretty extreme divorce. And, you know, I love my family. But when you're a mom who has a child, or a dad who has a child, when you have this little life that you're responsible for, it's a different feeling than you've had before. And I think that anyone who has a child, in any way that they have that child, will feel the same, because, I mean, I hope they do, because it's a great feeling. It's scary and bottomless and bigger than you could ever imagine, but it's a great feeling. So yeah, we're gonna figure it out. But I just, you know, I still deal with my stress, I still deal with my trauma, I'm still scared, and that probably won't go away. And I look back now on the things that I did as a teenager, God help me, and I cannot apologize to my mother enough, because if she loves me even a fraction of how much I love my son, you know, wow, I'm sorry. But, you know, I feel lucky also to have a great relationship with my mom, and, you know, I hope someday that my son and I will have a great relationship when we're older and adults. But now it's all about making sure that he's taken care of. And sometimes that might make him very unhappy with me. And, you know, that will just have to be something we'll deal with. You know, it's for him to keep going and to be healthy, and that's all worth it to me. So, yeah, I I just want to come on here and say that if I can do it, anyone can. So thanks for listening, and check out Shits and Gigs podcast, YouTube channel, hilarious. If you guys ever see this, James and Fuhad, at 5 o'clock in the morning when I discovered your YouTube channel, I went on like the deepest dive and watched every video you guys had ever made, laughed my ass off, and I appreciate what you guys do because it's hilarious and you're awesome. So thank you, and I will see you guys another day. Bye.